She looked me dead in the eyes and told me her ex was better in every way. Everyone at the table went silent. She expected me to crumble, but instead, I stood up, smiled, and said, "Then go. I won't stand in your way." Before I continue, subscribe, hit like, and tell me in the comments if anyone has ever disrespected you so badly it changed you in an instant. My name is Jason, and I used to believe marriage meant respect, even during the worst arguments. I believed you didn't cross certain lines. I believed love was something you honored. But my wife, Emily, believed love was leverage, something you used to get attention, something you dangled like bait. That it happened on an ordinary Saturday night. Cozy dinner at home, candles lit, old jazz playing from the kitchen speaker. I cooked her favorite, roasted chicken with garlic and herbs. I set the table, planned the evening, because lately she had been distant, cold, like living with someone who always had one foot out the door. I thought maybe a quiet dinner together could bring us back. But when she walked in from meeting friends earlier that evening, she carried the smell of cheap perfume and laughter on someone else's breath. And already, I knew the night was ruined. She sat down across from me, scrolling through her phone, barely lifting her eyes. I poured her a glass of wine. She didn't say thank you. I talked about work, trying to keep conversation alive, and she shrugged at everything like my life was an inconvenience she had to tolerate. Finally, I asked, "Are you okay? You seem upset with me." She put her phone down and leaned back in her chair with a sigh that felt like a slap. "Maybe I'm just tired of pretending, Jason." My heartbeat slowed. "Pretending what?" "That this," she said, waving her hand around the beautiful meal I spent hours making, "is the life I want." I stared at her. "What are you talking about?" She laughed, bitter, cruel. "I had passion before. I had someone who knew how to make me feel alive. Someone who wasn't afraid to take risks. Someone better than this. Someone better." I swallowed. "Emily, you're talking about Daniel?" Her smile twisted into something vicious. "He was better, in every way." She emphasized each word like she was twisting a knife, slowly, making sure I felt every inch. "Better in every way." My hands tightened around the edges of my chair. My pulse pounded in my ears. But I didn't yell. I didn't break. I just watched her, letting her spit venom until there was nothing left to hide behind. She leaned forward, eyes locked on mine, waiting for me to beg for her to take it back. But I didn't. Instead, I took a deep breath and nodded. "If you think he's better, go to him." Her face twitched, confusion. "What? You heard me," I said. "If your ex was the great love of your life, don't waste your time here. Go back to him." She blinked rapidly, caught off guard. What she expected was a man shattered. A man chasing after her. A man apologizing for not being someone else. But she wasn't married to that kind of man. "You're letting me leave?" She scoffed. "I'm not letting you," I corrected. "I'm telling you to stop lying to both of us." For the first time in a long time, she had no comeback. She stood up abruptly. "Fine," she snapped. "You'll regret this. Daniel always said I deserved better." I didn't respond. I just watched her grab her purse, chin raised high like she'd won something. She marched toward the door like a champion walking toward her victory parade. Before she stepped out, she glared back at me, expecting one last plea. But I just nodded. Calm, collected. "Good luck," I said. She froze for half a breath, probably thinking I'd chase her down the driveway. But I didn't. She slammed the door behind her, nearly knocking a picture frame off the wall. The candlelight flickered. The silence grew loud. The wine glass still sat untouched in front of her empty chair. I stared at the two plates on the table. One for the man who showed up, one for the woman who didn't. Part of me wanted to collapse, to fall apart, to scream. But instead, I cleaned every dish, every fork, every glass. I put away leftovers she would never eat again. And then, I took her phone charger off the nightstand. That's when I realized something painful. Sometimes the person you fight hardest to keep is the one who would throw you away the second they crave attention. That I sat in the quiet of the living room after everything was spotless and whispered to myself. She made her choice. What I didn't know then was this. She thought she was running back to the man she lost, but she was running straight toward the truth she didn't want to face. And I wasn't planning on waiting for her to find out. When Emily left that night, the silence she left behind wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. It was the kind of silence that follows something breaking. I sat on the edge of the couch, staring at the door like it might somehow reverse time and bring back the woman I used to know. But time didn't move backward, and neither did she. I didn't call. I didn't text. Every minute that passed felt like a test of who I really was. A man who begged, or a man who learned. I chose to learn. That I tried to sleep, but couldn't. My mind replayed the words she threw so casually. He was better in every way. She didn't just compare me to some stranger. She compared me to a ghost she should have buried years ago. A ghost named Daniel. That we all have pasts. We all have regrets. But dragging those regrets into your marriage like trophies? That's poison. And she had poured an entire bottle over what we had. When morning finally showed up, I made coffee like any other day. Except I poured only one mug. Hers remained in the cabinet. Empty. Just like the space she carved out in this home. I sat at the table, scrolling through the news, the coffee steam rising slow and silent. My phone stayed perfectly still. No calls. No apologies. Nothing. By noon, curiosity finally tugged at me. Not weakness, curiosity. I wondered what her night looked like. Did she drive straight to Daniel's? Did he actually open the door with open arms? Did she expect roses and fireworks waiting? Or did reality hit her quicker than she expected? I tried not to care. But caring is a hard habit to kill. Hours went by. Sun slid across the sky. Shadows moved across the floor. I went out to run errands, groceries, dry cleaning. The routine of someone whose world wasn't collapsing. I kept catching myself glancing at the passenger seat out of habit. But she wasn't there. And maybe that was a blessing in disguise. When I returned home, there was still no sign of her. No car. No echo of heels down the hallway. Not even a pity text like, "Are you home?" Or "We need to talk." Nothing. I cooked dinner for one. Ate it for one. Cleaned up for one. The apartment was quiet, but it didn't feel as heavy anymore. Maybe silence wasn't punishment. Maybe it was peace wearing unfamiliar clothing. That'd be why the second day, The unfamiliar began to feel comfortable that I went to work as usual. My coworkers joked around me, oblivious to the earthquake that hit my life. But I noticed something different. I felt lighter. My shoulders weren't heavy from carrying someone who resented me. My breath wasn't tight from trying to avoid the next complaint or sarcastic jab. When I got home that evening, something surprising happened. I smiled. For the first time in months, I smiled at the sight of my own front door. There was no dread waiting behind it. Just me, still no call. No text. Not even a social media post showing off her new, better in every way life. Which meant only one thing. She was facing reality. On the third day, I heard the first knock, slow, hesitant. Not the loud, confident knock of a woman who wins every argument that I didn't answer. I waited. The knock came again, softer this time. Finally, I opened the door but didn't step aside. There she was. Emily stood in front of me. Hair a mess, skin pale, eyes swollen. Her makeup from the night she left had turned into smeared shadows under her eyes. She wasn't dressed up anymore. She wasn't holding victory. She was holding panic. Jason, she breathed. Can we talk? I crossed my arms. About what? She looked down, fighting for control she didn't have anymore. I need to explain. You already did, I said. You said your ex was better. You made your choice. She winced at my words like they were sharp. I shouldn't have said that. But you did. I replied. She shook her head, trying to steady her voice. I thought he'd want me back. I thought he still loved me. We talked for weeks before, and he made me believe. Her voice cracked. He told me I was a mistake he wouldn't repeat. So Daniel didn't want her. He laughed at her. She left me for a lie that didn't even last 24 hours. He called me leftovers, she whispered, tears rolling down her cheeks. He told me I was stupid to think he'd take back something someone else threw away. Ouch. Suddenly, the insults she hurled at me came back like a boomerang she never expected. She insulted me by praising him, and he insulted her even worse that I said nothing. I just watched her drown in the consequences she poured. She stepped closer, reaching for my hand. But I know now. I know you're the one who loves me. The one who's always been there. Please, Jason. I was wrong. Let's fix this. I didn't move. The woman who told me her ex was better was now begging to come back to the man she tried to break. Her voice dropped to a pleading whisper. Please. I can't lose you. Not like this. Thunder rumbled in the distance. The sky was darkening behind her, wind pushing her hair around like a warning. The scene looked almost scripted by karma itself. She stepped forward and rested her hand on my chest. I'm home, she said. For a long moment, I stared into her desperate eyes. And the craziest part? She truly believed that simply saying, I'm home, still meant something. The silence stretched, and she finally realized. I wasn't stepping back, that I wasn't opening the door wider, that I wasn't collapsing under her tears, that I wasn't the same man she walked out on. This time, I was standing tall. Emily's hand lingered on my chest like she was trying to anchor herself to the life she thought would always be there waiting. Her eyes searched mine, desperate to find the softness she once controlled. But the softness she counted on was gone. She stared into a wall she never expected me to build. That I slowly stepped back, and her hand slipped away, falling uselessly to her side. The emptiness between us grew louder than any shouting ever could. She tried to smile through her tears, trying to pretend this wasn't as serious as it felt. Jason, come on, she whispered. We've argued before. We can get past this. I made a mistake. People make mistakes. I nodded once. People do. But mistakes stop being mistakes when you repeat them. She opened her mouth, searching for a defense that didn't exist. Finally, she sighed shakily. Can I just come inside? Please. I didn't move. Why? So we can talk, she murmured, voice thin. We are talking, I replied. Her shoulders dropped. The wind tugged at her hair as a few raindrops landed on her arms. She looked fragile now, not proud, not powerful, just fragile. You can't keep me standing out here, she said, trying to find some control in her voice again. I'm not keeping you anywhere, I said calmly. You chose to leave, and you chose where to go after. She flinched again. She hated being reminded of her own decisions. It made her uncomfortable to sit in the bed she made. She glanced back toward the parking lot, as if hoping someone would swoop in and rescue her pride. But there was no audience. No Daniel waiting behind a steering wheel. No cheering friends. Just her. Alone. What do you want from me? She finally asked, exhaustion sinking into her bones. To understand, I answered. Why did you do it? Why say something so cruel? Why compare me to a man who treated you like an option? She pulled her arms around herself, shivering slightly. Because I wanted to hurt you, she admitted. I wanted you to chase me, to prove I still mattered. I thought if you were afraid to lose me, I'd feel better about myself. There it was. The ugly truth. I had spent so long blaming myself for not being enough. And all along, she was drowning in her own insecurity, dragging me under with her so she wouldn't be alone. And did it work? I asked quietly. She shook her head. It made me feel worse. It always did. She stepped closer again, tears streaming down like guilt carving its way out. Jason, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness right now, but I'm asking you to give me a chance to earn it. I stared at her, really stared, and saw the person behind the chaos. Not evil, not heartless, just broken. But loving a broken person doesn't mean letting them break you too. Emily looked down at my hand, like she expected me to reach for her. Instead, I placed my hand on the door frame, blocking the entrance between us. Her breath caught. You're really not going to let me in? Not yet, I said. If you want to rebuild something, you don't start by walking through the same door you slammed. Thunder cracked above us, louder this time. Rain began to fall harder, splashing against the ground between our feet. Emily wrapped her arms tighter, teeth chattering. Jason, please, she begged, voice breaking. Don't do this to me. I thought you loved me. I did, I said. More than you ever realized. But love doesn't survive disrespect. You made sure of that. Every raindrop seemed to emphasize the truth in those words. She closed her eyes, letting tears and rain blend together. I was so stupid, she whispered. I left something good. and I ran straight to a memory that never loved me. She looked up at me again, eyes pleading with everything she had left. Give me one more chance. I'll prove myself. I'll show you you're better than he ever was. Better than anyone. The irony twisted through the air. She was finally saying the words she expected me to say to her, but I didn't feel satisfaction. Just clarity. You didn't have to prove I was better, I said. You just had to treat me like I was enough. Silence thickened around us. Emily exhaled slowly, fear trembling in every breath. So what now? What now? The question hung between us like lightning waiting to strike. Then she said something that almost sounded like realization instead of panic. I guess. I don't have a home anymore. And in that moment, the truth was undeniable. She didn't. Not the one she left. Not the one she ran to. Not the one she expected to run back into. She was stuck in the middle, with nothing but consequences for company. She took a shaky step back from the door, her defeated eyes never leaving mine. I could see when she finally understood the damage she had done. Not the argument. Not the words. The choice. You really meant it, she whispered. When you told me to go. I nodded once. The lightning flash lit up her face. Fear, heartbreak, and regret etched deeper than the rain. She stumbled to a bench by the walkway, sitting down because standing was suddenly too heavy. She buried her face in her hands, sobbing into the storm, shaking from the cold reality that she wasn't the one in control anymore. And I stood there, inside the home she forfeited, realizing something. For the first time in years, she needed me more than I needed her. The balance had shifted, and she felt every inch of that fall. The rain soaked through Emily's clothes as she sat hunched on that cold bench, trembling more from fear than the storm. I stayed in the doorway for a moment, watching the woman I once promised forever to. The woman who believed I'd always be there no matter how hard. She pushed me away. She looked smaller than ever, vulnerable, shattered by her own hand. Jason, she whispered again, barely audible under the rain. Please, let me come home. Home. That word used to mean her. Now it meant peace, and she wasn't part of it anymore. I'm not trying to be cruel, I said quietly. But you walked away the second you thought someone else would make you feel important. Lightning flashed, and she lifted her head, her mascara streaked, her eyes full of desperate hope. Because I thought you'd come after me. I thought you'd fight for me. I did, I answered. For years. You just never noticed. Her lips parted like she wanted to argue, but even she knew there was no argument left. All the excuses she held on to slipped away, leaving nothing but regret. I'll do better, she insisted, voice cracking. I'll go to therapy. We can go together. I'll earn back your trust. I swear. Just don't give up on me. Every sentence was a plea, but every plea came too late that I stepped outside, letting the rain hit me too. I wasn't towering over her. I stood beside her. Not as a husband, not even as a friend. Just as someone who once cared deeply, but didn't anymore. You didn't lose me tonight, I said. You lost me long before this. She shook her head violently. No, I can fix this. I'll make it right. You can't fix what you refused to acknowledge was broken, I interrupted. You wanted him. You chased him. You put him on a pedestal while mocking the man who stayed by your side. Her shoulders shook harder. The rain masked her tears, but not her pain. What am I supposed to do? She asked, truly terrified. Figure out who you are without destroying someone in the process, I said. She stared at me as if the world had just ended, and maybe for her, it had. You're heartless, she finally gasped. I gave a small, sad smile. No, I finally have a heart for myself. Her jaw dropped, trembling, stunned that the one she underestimated now stood firm. Thunder cracked again. She looked toward the parking lot, to the empty spot where her fantasy life vanished. Daniel doesn't want me, she mumbled. I have nowhere to go. You had everything, I replied. And you threw it away to chase attention. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing into the storm. A heartbreaking sound, but not because I wanted to save her, because she finally understood. After a while, she stood shakily. Where do I go? She asked. You'll figure it out, I said. There's a hotel 2 blocks down. Or call a friend. She looked at me like she was hoping for a different answer, but I didn't have one to give. She took one slow breath, as if gathering the courage to step out of the last piece of comfort she had. Maybe one day you'll forgive me, she whispered. Maybe, I said. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. Her head dropped. She turned toward the sidewalk, walking slowly, rain pouring down her back. Every step away felt like a reminder of every moment she'd chosen someone else over the man who never stopped choosing her. Halfway down the path, she stopped and looked back one last time, eyes pleading for a miracle. But miracles don't come to people who abuse the blessings they already had. She walked away that I watched her disappear into the haze of rain and streetlights, a silhouette swallowed by the choices she made. When she was finally gone, I stepped back inside and closed the door. Not in anger, not in triumph, just in acceptance. Silence returned. But this time, it didn't feel heavy. It felt earned. That I walked to the table where those 2 dinner plates once sat. I placed a single mug out, poured myself a fresh cup of coffee, and sat down. The chair across from me was empty, and for the first time in a long time, I was okay with that. I had spent years trying to prove to her that I was enough. Turns out, I always was. She just wasn't smart enough to realize it. Sometimes the best revenge isn't rage or shouting or making someone jealous. Sometimes the best revenge is living a life that no longer needs the person who took you for granted. And in that moment, with the storm fading outside, I finally understood. Silence is not weakness. Letting go is not failure. And loving yourself is not selfish. That it's survival. That if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and leave a comment below. Tell me, have you ever realized your worth only after someone tried to make you feel like you had none?